What's up everyone, John here from CONTRABIM, and we are back with another Archicad tutorial. Today's subject is going to be all about how to create composite wall sections, enlarged wall sections I should say, that are kind of pieced together so that we can fit them all on a single sheet. And we will talk about how we can create some of these break marks and then assemble this so that it kind of looks and feels nice with plenty of space for adding notes and other documentation. So with that, we are going to be adding in several different wall sections, and then we'll walk through two different workflows for how you can assemble what I call those composite wall sections, which are essentially made up of several kind of small details placed together. The whole purpose of this, again, is to create these different drawings that we can use for detailing and annotation. Hey guys, I just want to jump in here real quick and let you know that we have a brand new training course called the Anatomy of Archicad coming out here in July. This training course is really going to connect the dots between all the different aspects of the Archicad working environment so that you can learn to think and speak the Archicad language. I'm really excited about this one. This is a collaboration between myself and Francois Swanepoel from South Africa. Fusion BIM is his company. He's a really great instructor and an Archicad enthusiast, and he just knows everything about the software, and it's been really fun recording this training session together. We've prepared a course roadmap made up of 10 different modules that will really help connect the dots between all the different workings within the program. And as we go along this course, we're going to really try to connect the dots even more so that you understand how everything works together, and you really understand when you make changes in one location of the software, how it's going to impact something on the other end. So we got some really awesome topics made up of these modules. If you want to learn more, go check out contrabim.com/anatomy of Archicad, where you can register and learn more about the details that we've packed into these 10 amazing modules. Back to the training. So all right, let's jump into it here. So first thing that I want to just talk about is really the main difference between wall sections and building sections. So we actually have here in our project, we have under our views, we have under our sections, we have building sections, and then we have just a few wall sections here. So number one, I just want to kind of select this building section that we have cutting through, and we'll just talk about that quickly. So that would be our building section 2. And we can see here that this building section actually has some depth to it. So obviously there's the cut through the section, and then it's actually picking up some of that content in the background. And we can see why when we go and select it here. We can see that this is a section that in this case actually has a unlimited depth or a infinite depth. But we are also adding in this section, you can see this second line here, which is kind of our break mark to indicate where we are fading the background out. So that would be our building section. Now along this same line here, we actually have another section that's placed here, and ultimately we may decide if we want to either keep this on the plan or hide this from the plan, but these have its own dedicated layer for wall sections. And if we open up this wall section, you'll see that this has there is no depth to it. It's a straight cut, and so therefore we are not going to see any of the other content in the background, and so this is a little bit better for detailing of these different conditions. Now if we actually take this wall section, and right now this is a wall section at a 1/4 inch scale, and if we actually took this and we dropped it onto our wall sections here, you'll see that it's going to be very small. This isn't very good for detailing, and there's no question as to why. It's just too small. We want to make this much larger. Now from this view, we can actually go here and we can link this drawing to another version of our sections here. Instead of the 1/4 inch scale, we have another version down our list here that is, where are they? It is sometimes it's tough to find them here. We're just going to roll these up, and we are looking for our detailing sections. So just bear with me as we kind of close some of these down. There we go. So our detail plans, and then we have our detail section. So if we link that wall section to the detailed version of that, Let's link, and we'll see that this will update. That was a 1-inch scale, and so we can see that it's now quite a bit larger. If we take this view and if we fit the frame to the drawing, then we can see that obviously is much larger. We can maybe try to squeeze all this on, but it's not quite going to fit. And for that reason, we need to take this one step further, which would be to essentially chop it up as we've done on this previous drawing I demonstrated. So in order to do that here, we're going to walk through this workflow. I'm going to delete this one for now, this new wall section, and we're going to set up a new wall section, and we'll kind of walk through those steps and do something very similar. So this is going to be method 1, which is essentially taking our source model view, and then we are going to be placing it on a layout and then chopping it up. So in this section here, we are going to kind of cut it right through this section. We're going to place it. I'm going to make a slight alignment on here. So we're going to move it to right there. I'm going to call this wall section. In this case, we're going to call this the pantry office. And I'm going to change my ID here from this kind of placeholder XX to a wall section 2. So that's going to be our next wall section. We have not placed this on any type of layout just yet, but we will right now. So the way that we are going to do that is we're going to take this new wall section. We're going to do this not out of our 1/4 inch, but under our details, 1 inch. We're going to take this new section. We are going to drag it over, and we're going to place it right there. And I'm going to redefine this right here on top, wall sections 2. And in our view here, let's jump to this. And we're looking to see where it is. So there we are. One thing I'm noting here is our title block. This is actually the wrong drawing size, so we're going to shrink this down a little bit there. So I wanted to make sure that I have that updated. And so if we try to place this over here, then we are going to ultimately kind of run out of space. It's a little bit too big, but if we want the details that we have there, then we need to do a little bit more work on this. So what we're going to do here is we are going to start cropping this down, and we are going to start kind of picking the points that we want to feature as our details here. And so I'm just going to kind of start placing these. And as I'm doing so, up here we have currently a custom. We could set this to the name only. We can see it's pantry office, but I'm going to set this to custom. This is going to be a detail, and this is going to be our sink. This is going to be our counter detail. So that's just going to be a placeholder, and we're going to start moving these around. So the next step here is I'm going to just give this a little bit more space here. And I'm going to pull this over, give it a little bit more space. And next step is I'm going to actually drag a copy of this upwards, and we're going to start moving these around so that we can create that next detail condition, which is going to be kind of our window header condition. So that's already starting to look good. We are going to drag this over, and we're going to kind of take this up, and we'll do the same thing as we did before, but we're going to shift this around within our drawing view here. We're going to have that update. And okay, so we're trying to find kind of the right condition here for where we want this to sit. And it may be somewhere right in this vicinity. We'll have to kind of see, but we're watching that update. So yeah, maybe we want to have a detail that is kind of covering this whole condition here, or perhaps maybe we want to make it smaller. We have one there, and then we have another one down here at this ceiling location. One thing that I find is useful here, and it just kind of helps keep these things a little bit in line, is if we add a guideline here, then it gives us kind of a nice reference to take this and to snap it right there, and then we can determine, okay, do we want to have a larger detail there, or do we want to kind of crop this down a little bit? And I'm kind of thinking here it may look nice to kind of cut these down just a little bit. We'll have to play with these as we start getting into it, but we are going to kind of move these around. On our other wall section here, we have these break markers, which can kind of be a nice spacer. So we're going to copy this. We are going to paste it over here. And come on, Control V. There we go. So we can use this as a little bit of a separator here, and that kind of at least helps keep our spacing a little bit more in line. So with this, I'm actually going to take this one and we're going to drag it down, and we can stick it right there, and so we can have a detail set to right at that condition. Now these don't need to be the same size. It's okay to have some smaller ones, but maybe we'll pull this down just slightly, and that'll kind of feel a little bit more like there's a little more continuity there. So okay, let's take this. We're going to create, and we can actually just drag this along this line here. So we'll just drag a copy of this up, and then we're going to adjust this down to get that peak. And it's probably going to be somewhere right down in this region. So we'll make sure to update that one. And okay, so there's our peak. And we're looking okay. We have quite a bit of space left over here, but let's just make a few little tweaks on this. Now that we have this placed, we can actually drag it down a little bit and get a little bit more balanced feel on this one. So probably somewhere right in there. That's good. Update to frame. And we can just keep going with this. So we're going to drag another one of these down, and we'll take it in that same projection. And then once again, we are just going to kind of slide things up. Kind of tough to keep things along that guideline there, but yeah, let's just update this. It's probably going to be a similar condition as that, which is okay. But let's toss in another guideline here. So if we're happy with how that peak is sitting, then we can add another guideline, and we can just kind of snap these around and keep working it. So there's some solar panels up top. We're going to drag this one down, maybe make it a little bit larger. I know there's going to be a bit of a transition here in our roof slopes, so let's just pull this one up, and hopefully we're getting close. I think we're going to go just a little bit further, and we can update that. And I'm thinking, let's take this up a little more. And so yeah, you can see how we're just working through this, and I think we got space over here for one more, and that will be certainly our eave condition. So let's just drag this out. We're going to slide this over, and it's probably going to be somewhere right around this area. Update to frame. Okay. A little more work. We can add another guide to create that new plane. And so once we've done that, and if we're happy with this configuration, then we can start taking these and moving them around and creating just a little bit more of that kind of finished look by offsetting these, kind of cropping these around, and we'll give ourselves those nice break markers. So as we're doing this, we also want to kind of keep things a little bit balanced here as well. So I'm just looking at this and seeing, yeah, maybe there's a few things we want to kind of try to keep balanced. So like adding a guideline here, obviously these are wanting to be at the same location. So maybe we'll just kind of slide this down, and as we're doing this, we'll snap it right there and update to frame. That way it feels just a little bit more balanced there, side to side. And we'll just keep going with this one. offset this. Take this one down here. Now, in this scenario, it does feel nice when we can, and actually we'll have to look at that. Looks like that ceiling is cutting into there, which I'm not sure if that's intended or not, but it does sometimes feel nice to have these at the same elevation, although I don't know if that's going to be necessarily possible unless we are at like the same scale as what it would normally be without these break markers in here. So we may have to kind of pick and choose in some of these scenarios. In fact, we'll probably just pick to choose to keep our roof in line. And so there we are. We've kind of gone through the top side. We can go and make, now that we have these, we can actually just copy some of these down. Don't want to do that, but we're going to copy this down so that we know that this is already in line. And then we can take this one and we're just going to pull it up a ways. And then we'll just kind of, hopefully we're close there on that condition. Not quite, but we'll pull that up, update. Then we're going to snap this. Top of floor decking. And you can see how we're just going through and piecing all of this together. Now, is there a window in this cut? That may be another one we want to try to squeeze in here. There's a counter. I don't think we've cut a window there, so we may actually want to do a slight adjustment on that one. So let's go back, and now that we've created that, going back to our level 1, you can see we actually ended up cutting like right in between where that window is. So if we give this just a slight adjustment here and we cut through that window, most of those details are going to be exactly the same. That looks good still. And if we go back, then we will see that we'll get that window detail in there. And this one should also pick up the header on that window detail also. And you'll see all of these are going to update. So there we have it. We have our header, we have our sill, and that's one thing that is really nice about doing it this way is it keeps that same source view. And once we've assembled these, then we can move that around and it becomes easy to update later on. So that's pretty much it here for what I wanted to demonstrate on this first approach. Now, of course, there are other ways of kind of creating these composite details as well. And we'll talk about that briefly here. And so let's go back and we are going to create one more wall section. And we'll talk about our other method of doing so. And so we're going to come back over here, and I'm going to just kind of pick up my wall section. And I know that we want to have a wall section cutting through this garage. So we're going to try to find a spot here that will pick up the doors so we can detail out that header condition, pick up the stairs. And so that should work pretty well right there. And let's go, and we're just going to select this one. We are going to call this wall section 3, and this is going to be the garage. Okay, and with this wall section, once again, we're going to take our wall section 3. We are going to drag it over to our, I'm sorry, we're kind of doing this a little bit backwards. That was getting a little bit ahead of myself there. So let's do this. It is nice though that this will ultimately be a reference there to this detail, but we can talk about that in a moment, how we can kind of override that. So the other method that I wanted to demonstrate here is by actually going into opening this view. And I don't want to open it from here. I want to open it from our enlarged detail section. So let's pull this one up. And I can see here that we're going to extend that up. And so now this is the section. We kind of have a few different things going on here. And our other method of creating these details would be to actually create details for this and place all these details. So let's go through that workflow just real quick. Number one here, we're not going to be doing a link marker. This is going to be creating a new detail viewpoint. And so we're just going to call this wall section 3. And this is going to be, we can give it a detail. We can rename these later, but as we're going through it, actually, let's just do this. So this is going to be garage door sill. And we are going to just come in here and we are going to place this first detail. Okay. So this has not been placed on a drawing yet, but we can add a detail, or yeah, our detail. We don't want our detail name. We want our, let's see, this is going to link to the first place drawing of the viewpoint. And so we're going to have our drawing ID and the layout ID, which has not been specified yet. One other thing we may do with that is perhaps increase the size. Although these markers, ultimately we may want to actually create link markers back to our building section, which is pretty common for this if we're not actually placing a wall section on a layout. But let's kind of go through this workflow and we can come back and we can modify all these later on. So we're going to pick up the settings of that one, and I'm going to come here and we're going to add another detail for that location. So this should be our source marker, wall section. This is still wall section 3. This is the garage door header. And we may just kind of do a little bit of rework on this. So I'm kind of thinking this one is a little bit larger than I wanted. So we'll add a guideline in here and we'll kind of shrink this up, or we'll offset. Okay, do that. Pull this up a little bit, try to keep them as square as we can. From here, we have our next one, which if we take this, let's see if we can get this to work okay. So this actually created a link marker back to that first one. So we don't want to do that. But what we can do is let's just toss on another guide here, and we can create a short detail here or a thin detail. So this is going to, again, it's going to be that wall section 3, and this is going to be our window detail. And then we're going to come up top, and again, wall section 3. This is going to be our, this is a gable detail. So we're going to add that one here as well. Okay, so we kind of have one side of it done. Now we can definitely add a few more here, kind of right in the middle. So perhaps we want to just have a, well, actually we'll probably have another stair detail, but let's just add one right here. So this is going to be our, still this is wall section 3. This is going to be our stair landing. Stair top landing. We're going to have an actual stair landing over here. Stair mid landing. And then we, looks like we'll have to do something there with that footing, but I'm going to toss in a few more guides on here just because it's nice to try to keep these at the same size. And we are going to add one that just goes down a little bit larger and kind of picks up this lower configuration, which is our wall section 3 once again, and this is going to be our lower wall. And one more here. We're going to toss a guide, another guide, and that frames this one out for us. And then we're going to have our other gable detail. Gable detail 2. Okay, so we've created all these different wall sections now, we've created our wall section, and now we've added several details here. And if we actually jump now to our details, we have not actually created a clone folder of all of our details because a lot of them are very kind of purpose specific. And so in this case, we're just going to roll this up a bit and go find all those new wall section details. Let's see. I think we need to just rename some of these. So that's going to go back to 3. Garage door header, that's going to go back to 3. And top of stair. Looks like I missed a few of those as we were going through it. Okay, so all of those are wall section 3. We could do 3-1, 3-2, and so on. But for now, I think we're looking good. And so we are going to, let's just go to the first one here that we've set up, which is going to be our garage door sill. And I just want to get these settings right, or pretty close to. One thing we're going to do is just send that to the back so that gets cleaned up a little bit. And we can always go in and make modifications here. Like obviously some of this here we need to connect a little cleaner. So at this point we can start making adjustments to the actual detailing of this, which in this case we're just going to kind of move a few things around, and yeah, maybe we'll have a little bit of little gap in there or some filler in there. We can do whatever we want with this, but anyway, this is just kind of the start of the detailing process. And so now that we have this set up, we're just going to check our settings here. So we're going to redefine this. We're going to set this as a 1-inch scale. This is our layer combination, so this is detail sections. We can see our pens, which is fine for now. We don't have any overrides turned on here. If we wanted, we could set these like a detail no fill, but we don't want to do that. I think for right now this looks good. We can kind of preview what it will look like with our layout pens, so that looks fine for now. And yeah, with that, I think all of these look pretty good. So what we will do is we'll save these as views. So these are going to be model-based details, and I'm actually going to create a new folder for these since we have a new section. So these are going to be model-based details. These are going to be model-based wall sections, and we're just going to say 1 inch on those to define that. And then we're going to take all of these with these settings, our current settings, and drop all of those there. And then ultimately we're going to take these and we are going to place them here on this layout. So that would be the other method, which obviously, like, I feel like it took a little bit of time to do that. It may be a little bit faster on the other side here of like actually reconfiguring these. So let's just go and check out what it looks like. Number 1 here, I know I need to change this back to our correct layout. We'll see that there should be several details that are placed on here. We can see them all down there. We can see our first wall section that we placed here kind of like by kind of by accident, I should say. I kind of got a little ahead of myself. So there we can see that wall section with all those detail references. And now that we have it placed here, we can just go through and we can start configuring these so that they are in their proper location. So we're going to just get them close to begin with, and then we can do a little bit of extra work there to make sure that everything is right where we want it. So okay, so there we go. Where's that Eve detail? I think I saw it come in way over here. So yeah, we may want to kind of crunch some of these down just a little bit, but that will be fine. So we'll place that one. This is obviously our lower one. These are our stair landing details here. And so now we kind of have these, we at least have these kind of starting to be arranged. So at this point we can come over here and just like do some alignment work. This one I'm feeling is probably gonna have to be pretty tall here, and we can take this one and slide it down. We're gonna slide this. Let's do this. So this one here, we're going to just fit frame to drawing so that it's a little bit tighter. Going to align this to that point, and we can drop that down. We have our window, which was a full cut through that window. Obviously not a very tall window, but yeah, we can see that we're close on this. We can, of course, we could duplicate this detail, and I think we'll do that here. We're going to just create one there. We're going to copy that detail, and we're just going to pull that down until we see our header there. So that should do it for us. So this is the other method. So these are creating several details of that same wall section. Now there's some perhaps pros and cons of doing this. And maybe this section, because it was 2 stories there, the first one we did was a little bit easier because it was just 1 story. We're starting to see that we're kind of, our configuration over here is kind of getting a little bit off. And so this is probably another one here where maybe we crop this down and then we, you know, make a copy upwards, and then we kind of pull this down again, pull it down again, update to frame. So that can at least help us get this one squeezed in over here. In order to get both of these to align where it feels like our stairs are coming up on this side, then I think this, in this case, maybe we'll just do that. Kind of create the illusion that it's, that stair is going up from one to another. But yeah, that's pretty much what we wanted to cover here on this. At any point, we can go back here, and if we want to kind of extend this section of this detail, we can do so and pull this over to maybe pick up a little bit more of that roof there if we wanted so. But in order for that to update here into these details, this detail, if we go and say, we're going to fit frame to drawing on this one, you'll see that it won't actually pick up that new section. So we actually have to go back, open our source view on that one, and then we need to rebuild this source view from the model in order to get it to pick up that new boundary that we set for the details. So doing this second method here is definitely a little bit more back and forth of having to go in and add and refresh the details versus what we saw with our other method, which all we had to do is just kind of uncrop our drawing views. So this one should now extend automatically because it's set to frame. One thing that would have helped in that scenario is if we used our internal origin, it would have just kind of pushed it over instead of actually kind of centering it up. So if we do that again, let's kind of walk through that and just confirm that. So let's go back to our section, and let's just do this. We'll push this a little bit further here. So we'll add a few more rafters, and we'll go back to our detail, and we will rebuild from source view so it got a little wider. And so now if we go back here, by using that internal origin, it should keep it where it is and then just extend it. So that can be helpful if you are making these updates. And with that, I think we have pretty much covered everything that I wanted. Actually, we didn't. There's one more thing that I want to touch on real quick, and that is going to be how to create link markers. So we talked about in the beginning here that we have a wall section cutting through our project, which was our wall section 2 in this case. So we're going to go back here, wall section 2. And we're going to talk about that first section that we had originally set up here. And so this section was actually the building section. This is the one that shows kind of a little bit more depth to it. And just to compare and contrast that with our detail wall sections here, you'll see that it's going to remove the depth. So it's just going to be kind of like a 0 cut through there, or actually it was this first one, this wall section of the kitchen. So yeah, we'll actually talk about this one a little bit. This is the one that I had kind of set up that we demonstrated at the very beginning, this wall section 1. So if we want to create a linked detail marker to these specific drawings that we have placed here to represent this composite section, then we can do that directly on our building section here. So we're going to go back to that building section 2, and within this building section we can go to our details, and we are going to create a linked marker. So we're going to say placed linked marker is going to gray that out because it no longer applies. And what we're going to do is we're going to link this back to the first drawing of the selected viewpoint. And so based on, actually no, we're going to link this to the selected drawing. So by changing that there, the first drawing of the selected viewpoint, this actually goes back to the viewpoints. These are the source viewpoints that are from our project map. If we switch this over to the first drawing of the selected view, then this is going to jump us here to our view map, not the project map. If we go to the selected drawing, then this is going to jump us to our layout book, which is what we want in this case. And so we're just going to roll this up a little bit, and we're going to come down to the point where we have our building sections. And then we know that we're going to start here with our first detail, which is our entry door. So we're going to link this to that drawing there, and we are going to just come in here and create the detail that's about the right size that we want and place it right there. So that's detail 1 on 306. Now, once we have done that, we can actually take this and we can copy it up. And in fact, I think I might actually take these and just slide these over just a little bit. When we create linked details like this, then you'll see that it remained a linked detail. It didn't change anything about it. We're going to just move our marker head up just a little bit here. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to change the one that we have it linked to. So this is going to be our entry soffit detail. So now that we'll go to detail 2. So awesome. Now we can take this, and I'm just going to copy it up to the top, and this is going to be our roof peak. Okay. We're going to take this, we're going to drag it down to this point, and we're going to flip the head around, and we're going to relink this back to our roof transition right there. We're going to copy this once again, and we're going to link this to our patio, or sorry, our roof eave here. So that's detail 6 in this case. And then one more, we're going to copy this down, and I'm actually going to take both of these, slide them over a little bit. And this is going to be our patio door sill. So by doing that, we've created all these linked details, which took far less time than doing it the other method of actually placing source details. And now that we've done that, this is going to start showing up on our actual building section. So if we go to building section 2 in this case, we can see that all those details should show up here. And now we've kind of created that link between those two. So that is the workflow here that I wanted to cover today. It's all about how to create these composite wall sections. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this. Hope you picked up some new tips and tricks on these two different methods. And really, there is no right or wrong way. You can set these up however you want. But I think as we've gone through this, we've probably found that some ways are faster. There are some benefits of doing it one way or another. And yeah, I think whatever works best for you and your workflow, then do that for sure. But yeah, hopefully this was useful, and yeah, we'll definitely come back and do more videos on this type of work as well. So let me know if you have any questions. Leave it in the comment section, and thanks for watching.